Hello and welcome to episode 27 of Hybrid Fitness Report, sponsored by Wadleet. My name is Paul Reynolds. I'm just giving a very brief introduction to the pod on my own today, because most of the rest of it is taken up with a three-way conversation between myself and Jude and Michael O'Donnell. As mentioned, we're sponsored by Wadleet, a functional fitness clothing company based in the UK. It's more than apparel. It's a mindset, a community, and a call to action. Whether you're just starting out or pushing towards elite performance, Wadleet exists to support and inspire your journey. They believe in consistency over perfection, growth over ego, and the long game over quick wins. Head to wadleet.co.uk. That's WODLET.co.uk and check out their winter and spring range with free delivery on all orders over £50. Use code HFRPOD20 at checkout for 20% off your order. Just a couple of things before we get into that interview. There are a couple of events to update you on Hyrox generally. First of all is that they've been updating the calendar for 2026 a couple of times in the last week or so, and have put out the final 2026 calendar year schedule of races, excluding a race later in the year in Stockholm. You've got the World Championships in Stockholm in June. They're having another Stockholm race later in the year, but everything else is up on their website now. If you go to hyrox.com, on Instagram, likewise, Deadly Dozen have now got a full calendar year schedule of races available. We've reposted that as well on Instagram if you check us out on there. One thing to update on that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago now was there was a bit of an issue with Hyrox's World Championship scheduling. So the over 60s categories in singles and doubles have been switched to take place on the same day, thus ruling a whole bunch of people out for reasons we don't know. That's now, as I understand it, been reversed. So they're now on consecutive days, which is still a bit of a beast, especially for people in that age group. But at least they are now on consecutive days. So in theory, you can do the singles and doubles, both, if you qualified for both. Another thing that's interesting that happened recently, because we've been talking a lot about rules and the application of rules, not just standards, but rules around the track that changed this season. So a couple of the rules that changed for this year. One refers to rapid cooling, which has been outlawed. So by which they mean do not chuck water over yourself when you're on the course. And Cole Learn did that at a recent race, and the infraction wasn't appealed, so it went ahead, and his result was fine, and he won his race. More recently, in Glasgow, an American racer called Alyssa McElhenney spat on the course. That's another thing that's now been forbidden. You cannot spit on the course, which seems pretty reasonable, but obviously for a lot of folks it's kind of a natural thing when you're running to be doing that. But she spat on the course, and she had 2 minutes added to her time, and she was on the course, as it were, to qualify for the next major in Warsaw. But because of the spitting, she had 2 minutes added to her time. That took her out. That hasn't been appealed. That she kind of accepted that, but queried quite rightly, I think, why these things weren't universally applied. But she then raced in Hyrox Toulouse yesterday, just 4 days or 4 or 5 days after her Glasgow race, and she's now qualified for the major. So what started off as a pretty rough trip over from the US to try and qualify for the majors has now been successful. And it's seeing that the women's times are really like the men's are. Everything's getting quicker. Everyone's getting quicker. And elite times for the women now seem to be 58 something for the most part. Never mind 59. Just as for the men now, all the elite 15. If you're over 55, you're on the back end of the elite 15 now. So the times are getting crazy. And we're looking forward today to the EMEA elite 15 races. So that's a lot to look forward to if you're tuning in on YouTube to watch the Hyrox races there. But in the meantime, as I say, this episode is really about the interview with myself and Jude and Michael, and I hope you enjoy that. Speak to you soon. So Michael O'Donnell, welcome back to Hybrid Fitness Report. It's good to have you back on again. How have you been?
Been good. Thanks for having me back.
We brought Michael back on especially because he and Jude have just been at Hyrox in Glasgow. So they both competed in the pro doubles on Friday of last week, and then Sunday competing against each other in the pro singles. This is your second or third Glasgow, isn't it, Michael?
Third for me, yeah.
Yeah, third for you and second for Jude. How was the event overall, both of you, starting off with Michael, and how did it compare to the previous two?
Yeah, so it's definitely the biggest one that's been there. I've been obviously last 2 years, so 3 races now. That first one was my first solo, and just the sheer amount of people. They hire out more halls for the venue itself, so they can fit in more stations. The runs could be different.
Same venue, but they've hired extra parts of it, right?
Extra parts of the halls, yeah. So
right.
Definitely compared to the first time, just so they can spread out the stations a bit more. But that means each time that the course has been slightly different. So like I've said, I think it's hard if for the generic person who does a Hyrox once a year, it's hard to compare times because if they change the course at the same place each time, it is tough. So like last year, Glasgow was quite a generous course, whereas this year it was seen as quite a tough course. But main thing is it is a good venue. It's easy to get around. But this year was definitely the best it's been because of the bridges and the extra sort of equipment they had to allow more people to race.
Tell us about the bridges thing. I think there were 2 this time rather than 1, right?
Yeah, 2. So
how did that work?
Last year it was quite trouble like to sort of spectate, but it makes that a little bit easier getting in and out of the venue into certain parts of the race where it would be a bit harder if you're trying to cross the running track.
There seemed to be a big deal out of it. Is this the first time they've done a 2-bridge layout?
Can't say I'm sure. It might be, but they've definitely introduced them in all the UK races. Whether there's been 1 or 2, I'm not sure. But it does just makes racing better because you're not constantly changing which way you're running, and then it makes spectating a bit better too.
And plus, it's what, an hour and a half from where you live?
Not even that. Yes, 50-minute drive to the venue from mine. So,
there we go.
And my house is like 40 minutes away from anything anyway, so it's as close as I could get.
Oh, it's half an hour to get out the gates, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. So that was the event as a whole, and so it did have a reputation previously as being a quick course. And as you say, right from Wednesday, people were coming out and saying this is not running like it did before. If you're hoping for a PB, you might get it, but it won't be because the course is helping you.
Yeah.
And could you tell doing it why that was? What was different about the course layout this time, where you could tell actually this isn't going to be as fast?
So compared to last year, the in and the out were the opposite way around, which doesn't sound like much, but if you're running, in the way of you having to do a 180 turn to get out of the rock zone, it's a big difference to having to continue your run if you're running in the rock zone, if that makes sense. Also, the run.
Sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to say that again because Jude started trolling us already.
No. I basically my mic wasn't on. So I was trying to speak through this apparently. So I spoke like 4 times, but neither of you
I didn't
flinched. So
I
was
like,
no,
okay.
Well, we knew you were talking. We just weren't listening and weren't interested. So Mark, you were trying to say something helpful when Jude just started trying to bite in and mess up his sound and everything. You were telling us about how the layout was discernibly slower.
The in and the out arch were the other way around, if that makes a difference, and then the run course seemed to be a little bit longer. Whether it was longer, I don't know, but it was different to last year, 100%.
Right.
I think what we noticed, one of the things that we noticed when we were running around was a couple of the corners weren't kind. So you had to do either swing wide and cut in close, or you had to slow down at the corner in order to take the inner line. And then it was also dancing around a few people. So it wasn't completely clear and it wasn't packed. It was just sort of in the middle. So there was a bit of leaning in and out of people on Friday for me. I don't know how Michael found it, but I was definitely sort of bobbing and weaving a bit to try and get around people. And there was like as you came into the venue, at the back on the far left, there was a corner that when we were talking to people as well, they seemed to have quite a similar view where, like I said, you either swing wide and cut in or slow down. Otherwise, it's just not a plausible corner to take very quickly.
It was just a tighter angle.
Yeah. And some venues you can't avoid it, but that's the point. That's why it's not objectively as quick as others, just because of the layout. But that's just how it has to be sometimes. So,
do you have an idea of what you think a neutral course is and how much longer that was, or is there no such thing as a kind of a default or neutral?
I would say people's average times maybe is like 40 to 50 seconds, just because of, especially in the doubles, there's a lot of doubles partners who've raced together before and they've ran sort of a minute slower, possibly a little bit more. But like I say, the main thing is it's the same for everyone, isn't it? So as long as you're competing on that day. At the minute, it makes a difference because you're aiming for a time to qualify, whereas next season you're aiming for place, which is where the new qualification system has its benefits. But the main thing is it's the same for everyone, so you can't complain about it too much.
Right. And that probably just made it even more encouraging because you set a PB anyway. And I guess you think that you two of you are thinking, well, we set a PB, but it's a PB that was quicker than it really was for a couple of reasons, the second of which we'll come into. But going to your race on Friday then, how did you feel at the start? How did things go at the beginning?
Well, at the start, the build up was quite lengthy. I mean, we were talking about this and excited about it for, I mean, I'd say months, but we were talking every day about it a couple of weeks out. Like there was at least a message every day saying, this is what we need to do here. This is what we need to do here. I think because we both had a really good training block leading up to it. And I definitely felt, I know Michael did feel very fit compared to what we normally do. And I think we both just, fitness wise, we were both very ready for the race. And I personally hadn't raced in ages, and we hadn't raced together in ages. So it was a combination of feeling really fit and having not raced in ages and sort of wanting to get our name out there a little bit more and knowing that we can do really well. Sort of a combination of all those things sort of led into us feeling, I think, quite up to it.
Yeah, you both seemed, I mean, just looking at Instagram posts, you both seemed more doubles focused than either of you usually is. Is that because this was a kind of like an all or nothing qualification attempt for the Worlds?
Yeah, I think the main goal was to qualify for Worlds, but I think that is like, it should be an easy thing for us to get. The main thing was to go as fast as we can, because we haven't raced together in so long. It meant we had to try and qualify for Worlds, but we're quite lucky in the fact that, I'd say lucky, but everyone we're racing against is probably who we're going to be racing against at Worlds anyways. There might be the odd partnership or two that we've missed out on, but the other people competing are who was going to be competing at Worlds. So it was a good test, and we just happened to book the right race to try and qualify, which we ended up doing. So
your main aim was to qualify for the Worlds. That was fairly straightforward. It was more about, we haven't raced together in a long time. We've tapered kind of more for the doubles than the singles, and we just want to get back into working well as a team. So did you have a time that you were aiming for?
Yeah, I think we wanted to go under 52. I think that was our goal before going in. And I think we knew we were capable of it. Like we said, we knew it wasn't the most generous course. So in my eyes, well, obviously we were only 5 seconds off it in the end. So it's not a million miles away. But on a typical course, would we have that? Not a problem. So that was the goal going into it.
And how did it feel overall, not having raced together for a long time? And obviously Jude's done, I think you've both done one homie hopping. You've both raced with someone else since with each other, but not for months, right? Neither of you have done doubles for quite a while.
Nah,
I had Birmingham with Kieran in October, I think. Yeah, but nothing since then, and that wasn't for any sort of qualification. That was just really cool to be able to race with him. That was it, really.
That was just him trying to run the legs off you, which he seemed to do, and then you could do the stations a bit more. So what was it like doing doubles? Just the fact that you were doing doubles again, because you've been very much a team for quite a while, but you've actually not done many races together. So how was it jumping back into that again?
It was good. I've always said we're quite similar racers in the team, in the way that we've got similar strengths, but not too similar to the point where we can't benefit each other throughout the race. But I was
going to ask about that. Isn't that a hindrance rather than a help? Explain how you being so similar helps, because I'd have thought you'd want one tiny guy and one huge guy. So how is it beneficial that you're quite similar?
I think Jude's race with Kieran, obviously you can probably explain it better, kind of sums it up the best, really.
Yeah, I think when you have sort of Hyroxes, there are two different types of people in a sense. You've got the quicker runner and you've got the quicker station athlete. When I raced with Kieran, I was on paper the better station athlete. He was a far quicker runner. And when you have two people, although that in one sense covers all bases, it also leads to the fact that whoever's the quicker runner is going to just enforce the person who was better at stations to now fall behind. Because if you pull someone along at a pace that they can't run, with the run being the first thing in a Hyrox as opposed to a station, you're then going to be overly compromised for the station. And so the capacity that you did have to perform in the station is now no longer there. Because you could have the world record 2K skier, if you then tell him to run a 1K at 98% of his capacity, he's going to be nowhere near his 2K record, for example. Whereas if you're balancing that sort of threshold pace that me and Mike were able to do, where he's a slightly quicker runner, but not to the point at which it kills me going into the ski. If he then takes the ski first, for example, I'm then able to recover and perform just as well as I would have if I was dictating my own pace on the run. So I think you need to be similar so that the run doesn't overly compromise your station, so that the station athlete can carry out to his near enough his capacity.
Well, that calls into question the whole. Go on.
I think we've got the same mentality when it comes to pace in the race as well. We both sort of hold off at the start, and that happened in the doubles as well. Like, we came in quite far down the line up until the burpees really, and we're going with the pace, and as much as in the doubles as much as we're doing the solos, and it does having two people who race the same way. It prevents any sort of conflict on race tactics, and you both got the same mentality, knowing that really we're going to take the lead halfway through the race rather than at the start of the race. So I think that's a big thing as well as sort of strength.
So you went out fairly slowly by your standards, and then you came in about 10th or something on the skis, was it something like that? And you were happy to sit around there, 8th or 10th.
Yeah, I think it was something probably about that.
And then how were the two sled stations?
I think that the push was normal. I always find the push a little hard in the pull. And the push, I never really feel, if you're in a competitive doubles pairing, that you get much rest. So push is quite a hard station, just because the rest is about 8-9 seconds, if that, because you're pushing half lengths. The most common split is you do half lengths each. And we transition quite quickly. So if there was footage that anyone saw from our race, you'll see as soon as I finish pushing, Michael is pretty much already at the other side of the sled ready to push it back. And so by the time I've walked back behind Michael and then taken a few paces, he's already halfway, and then it's my go again. So I think pushes is tough in doubles, but obviously you only do 25 to 50 meters if you're evenly splitting it, so that the volume isn't the same. But the way it is and the intensity is ramped all the way up, and you've just come off of, which was our quickest run of the day, actually, after the ski somehow. So it was a tough station to push, but it's right at the start, and if you're already screwed at that point, you're screwed for the rest of the race. But we'd managed to pace it, so I think we were both all right at that point.
Sled pushes is a very hard watch as a spectator, because whoever it is that you're cheering on always looks like they've hit the wall. Everybody looks like they've hit the wall. So even as you're doing your scheduled stops, you're basically always stood there leaning against this thing, gasping for air, and then you're looking at the person you're supporting, going, "Oh crap, they've bonked." And then you look down the line like, "Oh, everyone else has bonked, and they're standing in the same place." So then you go, "Okay, how long is he resting for, though?" Which in your case, Jude, I think you've spoken about it a couple of times in the Worlds. You went off and had a cup of tea, kind of a couple of times during your sled push lengths. Whereas I think since then you've been very mindful to do this, and it doesn't really matter in the doubles because Michael takes straight over. But you're like, my rest is X seconds, and that is it, rather than breaking for as long as you think you need. And then how was the pull? You mentioned that Michael's the slightly better runner. Does that mean, Michael, that you start all of the stations because you get there first? How do you guys work it?
Yeah, that's how we split at each race, especially in the first half. When I can take the run, I can take the lead, and I'll start the station. But obviously Jude's a lot stronger than me at the station. So it means once coming off the stations, Jude's finishing, coming on the station time starting. So the ski I took start, sled push I took the start, and then sled pull took the start. We went in with full lengths. I don't actually know anyone else who's really does that. I can't say I've ever seen anyone else do full length. Yeah. But we done it last time we raced, it paid off, and we done it again this time, and it paid off again. I think we came in 4th or 5th and came out pretty much joint first. So that's how we split it. And then at the last length, just because Jude would have had full length. I took probably one or two pulls just to finish off, so he wasn't going into a run on a full sled length. But I think we've split that to a T. Like I said, we came in fifth, and I think we came out just before first. So definitely wouldn't change that.
Yeah, looking at the splits on that one just really quickly, we thought we went quickly, and we did. I mean, we were first out of 337, so we were the quickest pro doubles pair at the pole whilst doing full lengths. But I think that does need to be prefaced with you need a decently physically strong pair to do that. But that's the sort of give and take that our sort of abilities help with that station anyway.
Right. So body type actually dictates different tactics at the stations then. So if you're a smaller athlete or a less powerful athlete, you just need more brakes on the heavier weighted stations than you guys do, which takes us neatly onto the burpees, which is the greatest strength of both of you, right?
I don't mind.
Yeah, burpees.
Somehow got to be all right at them, and I think obviously after Jude's solo time, he's obviously got all right at them as well. We came in because, well, I was expecting to come in second after sort of finishing the pull a little bit, but I think I caught up a little bit on the run, and I just started, and I was feeling good, and I kind of got carried away, to be honest. I don't think I was counting, and all of a sudden we're half a length down. I was like, we haven't even swapped yet, but burpees we got a big chunk of time there. We came in second, quite maybe like 20 seconds behind first, and then we caught up a lot of time, I think, on the burpees, a lot of time.
How do you split those up?
Well, the burpees, we always have a plan, but that is one that's never gone to plan. And this is the first time it's actually worked out. So this one, Michael, I'd say did like probably 65% of the burpees. I think he must have done 3 or 4 sets of 8, and I did, I think, 3 sets of 5 or 6. The plan was he does 7, I do 6, and we just keep doing that. But I think halfway round or halfway into the last length, he said, just do 5. And he was like ready to do another one. I was like, all right. So I stopped at 5, and then he did like another 8.
Coming in.
Yeah. So I let him do like the last 8. So I don't know what was up with him on the burpees, but he seemed to be loving it. So I think he did. What
was up with you on the burpees, Michael?
I don't know, to be honest. I think the adrenaline must have kicked in at that point, but I don't know. I think I just realised that right, we're second here. We're not far behind first. We're doing well. I feel good. I know what happened last time we raced in the burpees, and I probably made the time up there from last time we raced, but with the minutes worth of penalties that we got. So I'd like to think I've made up for that now with that.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I notice. Michael's a lot more aware of me than I am when we race. Even when I race solos, when I race doubles, I have no idea where anyone in our heat is at any point during the race. And so if no one said anything to me, I would cross the finish line not knowing if I was first or fifth. But Michael seems to know at any given station where Graham and Liam were, who were ahead of us at that point, at most points during the race, whereas I for some reason, I lose focus on that aspect of things. I'm just running. I don't even notice it. So I think in the future, maybe that's something I want to...
Well, the idea that you are staggeringly unobservant isn't news, I think. But sure, okay.
Brilliant.
Well, okay, so... Well, in the doubles, as long as one of you's got your radar up, you don't both need the radar up. So as long as Michael's paying attention, you can just go into your tunnel vision zone thing and let Michael tell you what's going on.
I'll be the navigator.
There we go. So you came out 26 behind Graham and Liam. Then on to the row station, which is back on home turf for you two long individuals. I assume you're pretty similar, right? And therefore in doubles, it's more... We're going to go exactly that pace and nothing changes. Is that how it works with the pair of you? That goes precisely to plan?
Yeah, we actually ended up swapping our roles round. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. We typically, if you're the first wave, if a pro doubles normally first wave, they'll send you to the top. So like for spectators, it's a good point to see where everyone is. But for some reason, they put Graham and Liam and us two at the very start. So like no one could spectate, but they sent everyone else to the top. We were just a bit confused. Like I didn't know where to go, and then Jude just jumped on a row, and I think we just started run.
Right.
But typically it was supposed to go, I'll do the first 250, Jude will do the middle stint, and I'll finish. But we pretty much flipped that round.
So 250, 500, 250.
yeah, and we held the paces. I think it was slightly out from that, but it was there or thereabouts. But we held the paces. 1-3-5s, I think, believe we won, which isn't slow. I think we won that as well, did we not? The row.
Yeah, row we came second. So even though that didn't go to plan, we somehow turned out all right with that one.
But this is where we essentially took the lead, isn't it? The row.
Yeah. So the reason we had the roles reversed was just a bit of misunderstanding, I think, because what normally happens at that point is Michael will lead the run into the row and start with his 250. But because he did more than planned on the burpees, I ended up leading the run into the row by quite a bit. And so when I was already there, ready, Michael was gesturing with his hand towards the rower, which I thought at that point in time meant go, go, go without me. And then we're just going to flip the roll. So I started rowing. And then after like 200 meters, Michael goes, so how do you want to do this? And I was like, oh. So I was like, oh, okay. So I messed something up here.
I got to do it all. It's fine. You stand there.
So I was like, oh, okay. At that point, I knew that's not what he meant, because when I asked him afterwards, he meant I will go. So anyway, I did the 250. I was like, I felt fine. So I was like, 300. And so I did 300. He then hopped on and did 500, I think. And then I did the last 200. Just because that's how it played out. And yeah, like I said, we got second. So, I mean, maybe we would have gone quicker if we didn't, but I'm not too disappointed with that anyway. That's why communication is like everyone says in doubles, so key, because who knows, if he had taken the row, it would have wasted time on transition, and he would have been a little bit more tired going into his first set on the row. So I think, yeah, always have a plan, always be okay to change it. And in that scenario, even though we didn't mean to change it, in hindsight, you could break it down as if it was a beneficial thing. So
okay, so on to the farmer's carry, which is the easiest and quickest station. Is that fair?
It's the quickest in terms of what it should take. I think it's not my strongest station in terms of like percentages and placement. Normally, I'm not the fastest, but in doubles you can hide, and it's quite easy to get a fast time. Like you can't really go much faster than maybe 5 seconds, like if you were sprinting with them. But it's as easy as splitting it. When it's a 2-lap sort of track, you split halfway, and I think we came in maybe he's 10-15 seconds ahead, and we lost maybe a few seconds, but not a lot. It's not really much to say about it as a station. It's in doubles, it's just hot 50-50 in my eyes.
So fairly straightforward. So you go on.
Yeah, with the farmers in Glasgow, this was another part that made it not a actively quick course, because it was a bit of a maze. So instead of a out and back once, or even an out and back twice, it was more of a out back and round twice. So the more turning with any part in Hyrox, the more time it's going to add on, because you have to slow down your pace, change direction, and it just takes more out of your grip, etc., especially for farmers. So yeah, our doubles time 1:23. That's a decent solos time. So if you have an out and back on the solos, you can put down a 1:23. So it's just, again, playing the course.
Yeah, on the solos, you were both like 1:27, 1:29, something like that, right?
So yeah, I would have been higher, but yeah,
that's not much better. Okay. So that's probably a good 5+ seconds, and maybe, as with a lot of these things, when you make a station harder, it's not so much the time you lose on the station, but the amount of extra effort it takes that can sometimes make things slower afterwards, right? So going to the run after farmers, you're still in the lead by this point, but it's narrower from Graham and Liam, right?
Slightly, yeah. I think we lost a little bit of time, but I think we made it back up on the run. I was half expecting them when I was running to sort of wait for them to come running past, but it just never really happened towards the end, which I actually found out. I was speaking to Graham yesterday. His shoe broke, and he was struggling to run, which is perhaps why he couldn't catch up, but I don't know, maybe that's an excuse. I don't know, we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Just because his shoe broke, that's no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Running with one shoe, that sounds easy.
So next station then is the lunges, which went perfectly straightforward with no hitches whatsoever, didn't it?
Yeah, I'll let you take them.
So just the backstory to this is that you had, I suspect, well, it seems like a bit of a risky one, but anyway, there was a strategy or a tactic going into the lunges, which is whoever gets there first, which is typically Michael, will pick the bag up, and then pass it to Jude. So that the idea being that you save 2, 3, maybe even 4 seconds in the whole pick the bag off the floor process and then start walking. So whoever's in the lead, the second person starts the lunges and is given the bag. And you did that, and then what happened?
Yeah, so exactly what you said, but usually with the lunges, Michael will start and I will finish because he'll start the wall balls. But yeah, exactly what you said about the transition is he'll go to the line, I'll pass the bag to him, and that will go. And then Michael did, I think, 2 reps with that being the case and me walking behind him before a judge sprinted over, like we, thrown the bag at someone's head, sprinted over to Michael and said, "You can't do that." And then Michael was talking to her, being like, okay, we haven't had a problem before. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? And she sort of like glitched and stalled and just sort of stood there and then set someone else off on the line, which was Graham and Liam at this point passing us, which, as you can imagine, is kind of, a bit mentally like, that's annoying. Set those off, come back, and then Michael goes, and then she says, give it back to him. And so at this point, he then, after all of this, lifts the bag up, goes back to the start line, hands it to me, and then I have to start. So he's done reps. He's talked to the judge. She's set someone off. He's handed the bag back to me. He's moved out the way, and then he's messed up. That's messed up our changeover. So that's happened, and then we go.
You've lost how much time in that process?
I think because our timing chip gave us a time of 19 seconds on the lunges, that would indicate it took 19 seconds by crossing the line and starting, and her discussing what to do, and then going back to the start line to start again. I think that is probably the exact time what it was, because why would there be 19 seconds on our lunges time? And why it makes sense if we've crossed the line twice. So to me, that's, I think, what it cost her. But obviously in the moment it goes so quick, it's hard.
So just to be clear, the rule that the judge thought existed was that you can't do a changeover before the start. Is that right? Is that what she was saying?
Correct, which doesn't make sense because at the end of each length, you can do that exact thing. So why would you not be able to do it at the start? Which is exactly what the officials that spoke to us after said. They said that makes no sense because you can do it at the end. So it's obviously not a rule at the start.
So you weren't given a penalty. So there wasn't something on the scoreboard that was added to your time that could just be taken off. You were literally... So it's not that she came and chatted to you while you were doing it. She just literally stood in front of you, right, Michael?
Yeah. She said basically wouldn't allow me to continue a corner if someone stood there in front of me. But essentially that's all it was.
So you lost 19 seconds doing that because of rule interpretation that when you basically appealed it afterwards, the other head judge or the head judge agreed with you. Go on.
Well, it was more after that. Obviously, after that happened, we spoke about after the race. I was talking to a race director about it, who I didn't know at the time. And there was a race director, and he said, and I told him, I went up and looked at it afterwards, and it wasn't in the rule book at all. I don't know if I was missing something or anything like that. And he goes, no, that's definitely not a rule. That shouldn't have happened. And so he went and looked at some chip timings and spoke with a judge official and came back and said, well, you've been accredited 10 seconds. So we got some of the time back, and now on the leaderboards and everything, that's made the official change for our time to take 10 seconds off our lunges. But I'm assuming it would have been around, what do you think, Michael, like a 2:15, 2:20 lunge?
Yeah. More than likely, yeah.
And it ended up being a 2:35-ish.
Yeah, we don't know because apparently it was 19 seconds. But
I see. That was what's confusing me. So on the timer, because you passed the map twice near the beginning, and it was not right. Okay, so you went over the timing map to start, and then you got sent back to the timing map. So the timing map thought you finished. So you come out. Do you come out in second, comfortably behind Graham and Liam at that point?
Yeah, probably 5 seconds, 10 seconds behind them, which is obviously would have probably came out about a similar time, if not slightly ahead of them, if that didn't happen. But that's they were ultimately ahead for the last run going into the wall balls, which was a painful run. Right. We've done it before. Well, the plan was for Jude to finish them and I start the wall balls, but obviously with everything going on, we had to swap that around, and obviously finishing half a length of lunges before going to the wall balls is is always tough, and especially when I'm not used to it. And it was tough. That last run being longer as well. I was just trying to stay as close to Jude as I could before going into the wall balls, but I got there in the end, and Jude had ended up starting the wall balls. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a bit longer. I think our average lap was around a 3:30, and that last run was 4:12.
Right.
So it was definitely quite a bit long. I don't know who it takes the timing chip from, the first person who enters or the second, but either way, the last run was a lot longer, and we ended up splitting up the wall balls quite how we didn't exactly want to. And our splits for the lunges were thrown off because he had to do some at the end that he shouldn't have had to do. But anyway, the wall balls didn't go to plan, but they went smoothly anyway. We got a 3:30 for them, which in the doubles is fine, but it was tough for me at that point because coming out of the row, because doubles are so much more high paced than solos, I didn't have time or think about any water or anything. So I had really bad cotton mouth for the last 3 stations. And so I was almost foaming at the wall balls after I finished my 30 going into Michael. I couldn't swallow, after the row. I don't know how I did the back end of the race, but my mouth from some of the pictures was not in a good way.
You were white, how you were.
Yeah, it's bad.
How did it finish in terms of your heat? Was Graham and Liam still ahead of you by the end?
Yeah, so they beat us by about maybe 5 wall balls in the end. Ultimately being 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds.
Right.
But yeah, they ended up being first over the line, but not by much. Which it is good because when you think about who you're racing against, you've got to take into perspective and realise that it's not a bad person, but not a bad parent to come second to at all.
No, indeed. So you ended up on the second step of the podium, but the results now have you first. Is that correct? Because the 10 seconds was an official rebate of time, right?
Yeah, so obviously the podium was straight after the event, and we didn't even think anything would even come from it. And to be honest, we weren't really that interested anyways, because we still would have got a world spot because Connor and Luke, who were first, have already qualified for the Elite 15, of course, we qualified for Worlds in age group. So we knew we had that World Championship spot. So we weren't overly fussed. The only thing we missed out on really was a white flag, which, yeah, end of the day, who's crying? Not me. So, yeah.
Okay, but it's nice to have that on the record at least. So your time is officially 52:05, although it was initially recorded as 52:15, which is how much of a PB for the pair of you?
That's over a minute. Well over a minute.
Oh, well, 12 seconds for me.
For me, yeah. Obviously, as a parent.
Well, for you as a pair, it's a PB of over a minute.
Yeah.
And if this is slower than average, then you're probably on a neutral course of a 51.5, 51 low. Is that where you see yourselves being at?
Yeah, at least. I'd like to think by Worlds, I'd like to think we'll be under 51s. I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
And that puts you right in the mix for some anywhere on the podium at Stockholm, right?
Yeah, I think that was been my goal since we're set at the start of the season, and we wanted to qualify. We wanted to stay together as a pairing because we knew that really we're up there in the age category. So as a doubles pairing, it makes it even stronger. Although doubles isn't our main focus, there's no reason not to race both at Worlds. So, and it being second, the second race at Worlds, I think the only goal really is for us to try and win. What you wouldn't be doing it if you weren't trying to win. So putting it out there doesn't scare me, or it doesn't, make me feel like I'm being big-headed, because everyone else who's going there is trying to win essentially. So that's my goal for World Champs, and I'm sure Jude feels the same.
So if everyone has a great day in the doubles, everything on paper suggests that we can be overall champions. Whereas if everyone has a great day in the singles, everything on paper suggests that Gustav will definitely take first. And so in that respect, because he's already in the Elite 15, so that's why he's been sort of separated out for that. But as it stands on paper, that's how it looks from my perspective anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it as time goes on with the Hyrox, almost month by month, never mind year by year, the overall records aren't tumbling by a long way. But it seems like the sub elite category is becoming terrifyingly condensed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all in perspective. Like, if as someone who's trying to make it their career, training every single day for multiple hours, you need to be getting sort of 57, 56, 55, 54. You can't be getting sub 60s and, that doing it. If you're a recreational athlete and you're competitive and you're very fit and you've got a full-time job and you're still trying to be competitive in Hyrox, so sub 60 is a great time. But I think if you're trying to make this your career, you're not going to get anywhere with a 59, 58, and even a 57 right now, which is what I just got. Like, in terms of elite standings, I'm not going to get anywhere with 57, and I know that. But making steady progress is encouraging in that respect. And I know this year I will hit a 56, and a sort of 55 is where you start getting actual recognition for it. And so that's ultimately the goal. And who knows, in a year, that might be the new 57. So it's just getting better as much as I can every single year. And for doubles, like I said, it's going to be podium. It's going to be podium for solos as well. But whatever happens happens, I guess. But no, I'm excited.
And that's the story for both of you, right? Is that your singles times? I mean, Michael, you did a post about your Glasgow times over the last 3 years. You were a considerable athlete 2 years ago and a year ago, and both those times were way off what your singles time was here. So it's obviously a lot of it is your body getting used to the specific demands of Hyrox, right, in doubles and singles. So a great success in doubles overall. Just to cover it in rather more briefly, you both then had a day off to recuperate. Michael, with your Normatex, is that the brand?
It is, yeah.
How good are those things? So Normatex, tell us about them and whether you think they're worth the investment.
That is just a compression boots. There's different brands of them, but it's just something I've invested in to help with recovery. Some people believe in it, some people don't. It does help with recovery. Don't get us wrong, it doesn't make your legs not hurt after a Hyrox Pro race, but certainly helps with recovery. But clearly not enough for Sunday. But yeah, definitely recommend them.
So you both raced on Sunday then in the singles, somewhat compromised, shall we say?
Yeah.
Do you want to lead off, Michael? Let us know how that went for you. How was Sunday singles from your perspective?
Yeah, so solos for me on Sunday wasn't my best performance, but went into it feeling as good as I could. Obviously after racing on Friday, started strong, and sort of after the sled push, I knew that I was trying to run and I just couldn't hit the paces I would normally be hitting. But at which point I would never sort of stop giving 100%. I still give it everything that I had on day. And I got back into it a little bit. I hit PBs on the sled pull. I hit a decent burpees time. It's just I couldn't seem to get running. But I wanted to try and push for it fast as I could, and I still managed to go under the hour, which is respectable on a reasonably tough course. So I'm happy that I didn't throw in the towel and I didn't just give up, even though I was fighting it hard. But like I said, you can't PB every race, and it's these races that you need to sort of give you the motivation to get back to training and get back to where you want to be. But it doesn't take anything away from sort of Friday's result, which was I was buzzing about, and then racing on Sunday was a bonus, and obviously not getting the time I wanted. But like I said, you can't PB every race, so.
No, and it's. I mean, it was what, a minute 40 off your best. So in the grand scheme of things, it is still a great time.
Yeah.
And you can look at it and go, yeah, it's nowhere near what I wanted to do, but I don't need to worry about it because I know what I can do, and I know what I'll do next time when I don't have smashed up quads from a long taper and double.
Yeah, exactly. You just come back and try to work on what wasn't great, and then there's lessons learned in every race, but even more so in the ones that don't go well, because you know where to improve. So
I was going to ask about that because that was something else that you mentioned in one of your posts about learning more from not getting what you want sometimes. I mean, was there anything specific from the singles that you felt, right, I want to do that differently, or was it just one of those, I felt what it's like to not do exactly what I wanted, and that just spurs you on more?
Yeah, I think a big thing going into Worlds is I'm going to have to do better with my recovery between races if I am going to want to race twice in a weekend. So if I am going to do the solos and then the doubles and want to do well in the doubles, my recovery after a race and before going into a race twice in a weekend is going to have to be better. In terms of compromised running work, I felt like that probably was what's been lacking in training. But also I've obviously been doing the right things to improve sort of my sled pull, because that time was faster, my row was still good, my ski was still good. So like I say, there's always things you can pick out which have worked and which haven't worked from the training that you've been doing.
And it's still kind of wild to me talking to people like you guys. Because I've never been quick at anything. I was good compared to everyone else at cricket once for a few years, but I've basically been way back in whatever it is I've been doing. So I talk to people like you guys about something that went really badly, and then you look at the finishing like, okay, you're in the top 10. Just how bad was that exactly? and
it's all about perspective, though, isn't it?
Exactly. And if it wasn't for the fact that I've done Hyrox myself, when you go, oh, you did a 59 rather than 57, how bad was that? And you go, hang on a second, I did the open with lighter weights. I did brilliantly well. It took me 1 hour, 31 minutes and 55 seconds. So like, how do you even begin to do that? So yeah, as you say, it's all about perspective. So Jude, you obviously set a PB, obviously went pretty well.
Yeah. Like I said, it was more surprised than it was happy. Like, that's why I was so happy about it, was because of how surprised I was with it. Just because, like Michael said, I don't know how, everyone says Charlie races 5 times a weekend, because he actually does. I don't know how, not only do you compete 5 times, but you perform optimally 5 times. So I wasn't feeling optimal leading up. I think both of our recoveries could have been better after the Friday. I couldn't find a bike. We had to sit around for ages before the podium. I didn't eat for a while till afterwards. And it just wasn't sort of optimal leading up to Sunday. Saturday, I did well. I did a lot of mobility, went on the elliptical, did a bit of movement, a little bit of walking, a lot of resting. But yeah, the race itself, I mean, it went well. I got a few PBs on a few stations by changing up my form on them. So I'm really happy, and I think I'll carry that forward. I think the running overall felt good. It didn't feel great. I think I was sitting around, I don't know, a 340 to 45 for my runs, which is what I was doing within training. I've often been able to hold down a treadmill during a full sim, so I was glad that for the first time I could actually hit the treadmill paces in real life. The sleds felt good. The push felt heavy, but it felt steady. I was able to take 8 to 10 seconds between pushes and able to go all the way through.
You did look a mess on the push. I mean, I was saying to Jude earlier that it's a nightmare supporting someone during the sled push, because everyone looks like they're having a complete nightmare. Jude's nightmare was a little bit worse than most people's, because not only were you taking your lengthy tea breaks, but you're also shaking your legs out a lot. What was that all about?
Yeah, that's just lactic acid buildup. Like, if the less you move your legs, the higher of a chance it is for the blood to collate and pool in one area. Which is obviously how calcium is produced, and that's what causes fatigue. That's what causes the pain, is the calcium ions that build up in a specific area. So you want to be able to move your legs as much as possible. Is shaking out revolutionary, and will it save your sleds? No, it's just a small thing that I do that helps blood flow a little bit, I feel. So it's just a little thing that I do in between pushes. But like Michael said, we both take it out conservatively. I took the run conservatively. I was even 10 seconds slower than I predicted I would be on that first run when theorizing what I'd do the Saturday night. So I was like a 3:46 even pace for the first run. Skis held the same numbers I always do, 1:46. That felt easy. But on the ski, people get worried about, oh, it feels easy, I can push more. If it feels hard on the ski, it's station 1. You're screwed, right? You've done something really badly. It needs to feel actually easy. You've got adrenaline. You've got, relative to the rest of the race, almost no fatigue in your body. That skier should feel actively easy. You should be skiing at a pace that isn't an issue. And then for me, the pull was the best station today. I got 2:56, and I've never gotten below 3 before. I think it's like 15 seconds, 20 seconds better than my previous best. That came through. I think a lot of it was just changing my technique and actually going for it. Because before on the stations, the ones that I'm naturally better at, I normally coast it because I can still get a good time. But when you're looking for seconds, you need to push the stations that you're good at to optimize that station as well. And so it was, am I able to push the stations that I'm good at for the first time instead of just being naturally okay at them? So I was sort of glad that came together. And then burpees was my quickest time ever. I got 2:44 on those. I've never gotten below 3 as well on those. So I'm super happy with that. I've been doing a lot of burpees.
If it helps, you still look really bad doing them.
I do. I also did. That was the only station, ironically, on the solos that I didn't get any pictures of. Like the professional photographer didn't get any. So I don't know.
That's not ironic. The guy's eyes were bleeding watching you, so he just stopped.
It might not be a coincidence, but those went really well, and I didn't feel screwed after them. Farmers were farmers. Row first. Row was just row holding row. 146, 147. Yeah,
and that's 146.7. That's pretty much the same as you, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, probably a little bit quicker. I think the split would have been in the end, but yeah, there or thereabouts. Me and Jude, I think, are always in the top 5.
The two of you on the ergs, right? The two of you on the ergs are pretty much of a muchness, you know.
Yeah, Jude skis faster than me. In fact, you row faster than me as well. But compared to the rest of the field on the average, yeah, we're both stronger on that side.
Yeah, so those are good, and then
farmers are fine.
Yeah, and
did you have anyone standing in front of you on the lunges?
No, so I didn't pass the bag to anyone this time, so that helped.
Forgot to pay
yeah, exactly. And yeah, the lunges were, again, that was another huge PB on a station. That was 2:44, something like that as well. I didn't feel particularly good on them, so I think that was just me being more proactively thinking about the race. At that point, it was, if I'm going to put down a good time, I have to close strong, as always. And normally I'm quite vacant when I race. I just sort of go until it probably shouldn't hurt this much and then take it back a little bit. But I was very present.
You really do need Michael to be alert during the doubles, don't you?
Yeah. If he could help me on the solos as well, that would have been nice.
I'll keep up next time.
You got 12 seconds. Yeah. So yeah, lunges are good. And then wall balls was unbroken, which was cool to do that again. I really like wall balls. I do hundreds and hundreds of squats a week, so they're a station I'm definitely confident on. But it was the finish that was really cool. It was when in your wave, in the first pro men's wave, if you're in the top 3, the sort of MC at the time will call out your wall ball reps. And I came in, I think 16 or 17 behind first and 8 or 9 behind second, and I ended up beating them. So to hear that sort of announced was kind of awesome to win that on the day. But yeah.
And you were sufficiently vacant that you crossed the line waiting to greet someone in front of you, and there was no one in front of you, and it was all a bit of a shock.
yeah, basically.
So you set a new PB. So you're happy with that. So you're both basically very confident going into Stockholm. What races are next for you, Michael? It's not even Hyrox, is it?
No, I actually haven't got any more Hyrox booked. I've got London Marathon in 6 weeks now, which was a big focus. Now maybe it's after this weekend, maybe he's changed that up slightly depending on whether I can get another race in. But I'll just have to see what happens with work. But I would like to race again before Stockholm, but at the minute I actually haven't got any plans to, which could be good. Just sort of having a big training block. I'm sure it'll be here before we know it, like 3 months. It's not a long time, and it'll be here before we even know. But yeah, no Hyrox is booked, none, apart from Worlds.
And your hopes or your target for the London Marathon is what?
So I was set the goal of 2:35. Training was going really well, and then sort of 2 weeks out before Glasgow, I picked up a little injury, so I kind of didn't run to make sure I would make it in time for Glasgow, which I did. So the marathon training sort of took a backseat, but now I'm trying to get back into it, starting from this week once I'm recovered, and then I'll see if I'll be able to get back to the pace as I was. But I think that's still got to be my goal. I know it's something I can hit, and if you don't shoot big, then what's the point? My last one was Amsterdam, and I done 2:44, so I thought if I put a bit of focus into the marathon, I could probably go and do a pretty good time. So that was only end of last year. So yeah, I'm putting a bit more focus into it this time. But obviously after seeing how it's affected my maybe Hyrox performance, maybe it's changed it up, but still fresh. So I still haven't made a decision on that yet.
And how's it going on the high gloves front? You brought out version 2, which has got an easier in and out mechanism. Seems to be that one of the changes. How's version 2 different to version 1?
Better strap. bit tighter, so it's not as loose, and then a few more little slits between the fingers just to make it a bit more fitted. But it's been doing well. I've had to order another big batch, so it's obviously selling well. Yeah, it's going pretty good.
I used them in Vancouver, and weirdly, I thought I wanted them for the farmer's carry, but that was the one thing where I didn't want them because I don't have big hands. So my fingers don't wrap around very well. And having any kind of a glove shortens your grip length.
Yeah.
I thought the gloves were really good on especially the sled pull and the wall balls. I thought they made a real difference for me on both of those things.
The main feedback, sled pull seems to be the biggest saver. But
definitely.
Yeah, people are liking them. People are loving it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be using them again.
You got to support them if they help. Use them if they help.
Yeah,
100%. Great.
Yeah, buy the gloves now. Link in bio.
Not joking. So High Gloves version 2. So I've got version 1, and they're really good, and I'll be using them again. And like I said, they've helped me a lot in the sled pull and the wall balls. And for a lot of people, they also help in the farmer's carry. So Michael's done a great job with those. So all the best with that. Thank you very much for joining us. Anything else that either of you guys want to add?
Roll on wheels now, I guess. I think we're planning on training together maybe at least once and doing a sim, but that'll be the next time we officially race together after we've raced against each other in the solos. But roll on Stockholm.
Roll on Stockholm. And it's a great note to end. Thank you very much for joining us again, Michael, and I'm sure we'll speak to you, if not before Stockholm, then certainly to look back at how Stockholm went. So thanks again. Good to talk to you.
Sweet. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.